In this unit, we'll be talking about applying borders in Excel. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is how to understand what a border is. So you might not have noticed this, but between every cell in this tab is lines on the right, top, left, and bottom. And this helps frame the conversation and helps frame the work paper. For example, in this table above, we can see that these are headers, or the x-axis, and these are descriptors in the y-axis. And because these have individual lines around it, it helps frame and follow the line across. So generally, it makes your Excel workbook easier to read, easier to understand, and just generally easier to use. Let's see the same table without any borders applied. It's a little bit trickier to read. You can still use it, but it's definitely a good hallmark of a good Excel workbook to have well-designed borders. So, how to apply borders. The borders can be found in this category up here in the Home ribbon under the Font section. You'll see this little icon here. Next to it is a drop-down. It shows you, when you highlight it, what you have currently applied in your section. Now, if I drop this down, it's a very long list of potential options. We've got bottom left, top left, right. So these are options to apply an individual line on each of your cells. We've also got no border, all borders, just outside border, thick outside border, and then you've got these categories for total. So you've got your total bottom border, your thick bottom border, top and bottom border, top and thick bottom border. So it's really just how you prefer to format your work paper. Some companies have very specific formatting style guides which you must follow for totals and subtotals, but if your company doesn't have these, then you can choose however you like. So, first thing we're going to go through is how to add a border to a cell. So, let's start off with some empty data. We're going to have a name, John, age, 29. I'm just going to format this to the left so it's easier to read. So what I want to see here is I want to see all borders around here. So similar to this style here where every cell has a wall around it. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to select, first of all, let's just start off with the name cell. I want to create a border around this cell. The way I'm going to do this is to select the down arrow button, and from here I'm going to choose the option of outside borders. Now click this, and now it's going to show up with 4 borders. So let me just quickly undo that. Another way you can do it, but very slow, is to individually click each of these. So click a left border, now you can see that's appeared on the left hand side, a bottom border on the bottom side, the right border, and then the top border as well, and we should have the same result as we did before. Now what about applying it to multiple cells? I want to create similar to this style where there's a border around every cell, so it looks like a 4x4 with an intersection in the middle. So you can do this the slow way, which is to select each individual cell and click outside border and do that one by one, or what you can do, let me just remove these borders by pressing no border over here. What we can do is select the entire data set, press down arrow, and then click all borders instead of outside borders. And what this will do, as you can see in the image, is it'll provide a cross in the middle as well, as opposed to this one which will just go around the outside. So let me show you the difference quickly. So outside border, it's just going to look like that, but all borders is going to look like this. It's going to have a cross in the middle. Okay, so that constitutes how to add a border to a cell and a range. What I'm going to do next is to add a bottom border. Okay, so I've got a very simple P&L over here for company XYZ. I've got revenue, COGS, wages, fixed EBITDA, which is a total or a subtotal, depreciation, and then let's say net profit. A very simple example. It's not 100% correct, but what we want to do is have a subtotal here which sums the difference between revenue less these expenses. That should be a subtotal, and I want to format it like a subtotal using borders. And then I'm going to do it again at the bottom for a grand total of net profit. So first of all, let's just put these in bold so we can see that they stand out. And then I'm going to get the formula working. So I'm going to go equals the revenue minus some of our expenses. So that's going to get to our EBITDA. Now I want to put a total in, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to put a small line on the top and on the bottom. Okay, so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select my range as we went through before. Now up here we're going to choose top and bottom. Now you could also just press top, or you could just press bottom together. This is a slightly quicker way of doing it. We're just going to press this one here, and now we have a very simple subtotal. Now this makes it a lot easier to read for anyone reviewing the work paper. Now let's get to net profit, so we're just going to go equals that minus that. Now this is going to be the grand total, so I want this to look different to my subtotal. The grand total should be different in formatting, and generally it'll have a thicker line. So we've got a few different options here. We've got just the bottom double border. We could go top and thick bottom border, or we could go top and bottom. I'm going to go with top and thick bottom border. You could even add in a different color, maybe a light gray, just to differentiate your subtotal. And that is how you add in a very basic line on the top and bottom. What else you could do is maybe a different style, is top and double bottom. So maybe you prefer that file format, or you could do double bottom. You'll note that if formatting is already there, it'll override to the extent that you've selected it. For example, I'm only doing a bottom border, so it's not going to remove the line above it. Okay, so we've gone through how to add a bottom border and add a top and bottom border. What about if we want to remove borders? What if we want to start again? Let's go and do that now. So there's a few different ways you can do it. So the first way I'm going to show you is just to select all of this in the down arrow and just click no borders. Okay, and now it's disappeared, and you can start again and do it a different way. Now let me just undo that, and now it's back there. I've also got these keyboard shortcuts over here that you could use. So let's select this entire range over here, and we're going to go Control plus Shift plus underscore. Now you're going to have to press Shift to get to the underscore. So now it's all disappeared using a keyboard shortcut. Now let me press Control Z to redo that, and now it's back. Now whilst we're going on keyboard shortcuts, I'll also show you this one here, which is just to apply a thin outline border. Let me just do this over the company name and profit and loss statement. So we're going to go Control Shift and Control Shift and now we have this around the top. Let's do a quick color to make it nice and pretty as well. There we go. And you know what? Let's do a thick border around the outside as well, just to finish off the look, and we'll just change these column widths as well. Okay, we've got a very nice and neat profit and loss statement now. Next thing we're going to go through is the more borders command and working with more borders. So you can find more borders in the drop down right at the bottom. So there's the more borders button. There's also these draw borders items, which we'll talk through shortly, and you can also change your line colors here as well. So if we want to change this outside to, say, a orange, we can draw this on here, but we will go through that a little bit later. So for now, let's go through the more borders command. So as I said before, you can find this command at the bottom of the drop down, more borders. You get this pop-up format cells. So another way you can get to this screen, which is the way I do it, it's a little bit quicker, is you just right click and you go Format Cells down the bottom here, and it'll pop up with the same screen. Now this is a great way to do custom borders. So right now I've highlighted this entire cell, and you can see it's showing me the formatting that I've currently got. So it's got the outside border. Now I can also put a middle one in. See what's going to happen. It's going to apply a middle for every single one. Now let me go back to that screen again. So we're going to go right click Format. So here you can also start to apply some interesting styles of borders as well, which weren't apparent in this drop down box. So for example, you can do a dotted line. You select the style you want and the color that you want as well. Let's go with red, and you can just click on where you want the line. So I'm going to override the outside border. Let's see what that looks like. It looks pretty cool. And from here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right click, format that. This time we're going to do a thicker border, and we're going to do it in a purple color. I'm going to go on the outside as well. So this is a nice quick way of doing it. We can also add in another subtotal. Let's say we want a subtotal revenue. This is another way of doing it. So we can add in a double line here. We can just do it at the top and the bottom, and now we've got our subtotal here in this format. You can also do some interesting ones. Let's, for example, I'm going to select one cell. You can even do a line straight through it like that, or a double line like that. Just double click it again to get rid of it. I don't know why you would want to have that in there, but it's an option that you can work with. So it's also an interesting way of removing borders. So let's say that instead of the 4 borders, I want this to go away. Alright, so you could select these ones and press no border. That's one way of doing it that we went through before. But an alternative is we select the entire thing, right click it, format cells. In the border section, we just unclick this and it goes away. And then we have 3 walls. Okay, so finally we're going to get to the drawing borders tool, where we're going to use the drawing pen tool to do different things. So the location of this drawing tool is down the bottom, and there's a few different options. There's draw border grid, erase border, line color. So let's just start off with draw border. What it does is it gives you this little pen, and suddenly the screen turns into all these little dots, and basically you can draw lines on. Just click between 2 dots and it'll draw a line. So you can do that. So if I want to create a table over here, you can just draw it on if you prefer to do that. There's your outside. We'll do a subtotal here and a subtotal here. You can also change the formatting of this by going line color black and line style. We'll do a thick one. So we'll just change this one, and maybe we'll just change the outside border as well. We can also remove borders the same way, so we can erase border this way. Some people prefer to use it like this and just erase it like so. Just click with your mouse and it's all gone very quickly and easily. So I can also rub all this out. So that's just another way of removing borders. The only other thing that I wanted to just walk through with borders is the view with grid lines or not. So when you open up an Excel book, you may have this setting on over here, which is in view grid lines, and that basically gives you this view where each cell has this background, which kind of looks like borders anyway. You can turn that off, which I've done for this workbook by just clicking up here, grid lines, and it can actually make those borders really stand out. And sometimes if you've got your grid lines on, it can be hard to see where the border is. So just flagging that with you as well. Other than that, we've covered off everything in the chapter for applying borders in cell, and I look forward to going through the next chapter, which is on cell alignment.